Most actors walk off a film set and leave the character behind. Jim Caviezel walked off one and said the character never left him. He played Jesus in Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ, and what happened to him during that production is something Hollywood still struggles to explain. But by the time this video ends, you'll understand why. So, stick around as we delve through some of the things that happened to him during and after the filming. When Mel Gibson came to Jim Caviezel with the idea of playing Jesus in what would become one of the most controversial films in Hollywood history, his opening line wasn't exactly a sales pitch. He looked Caviezel in the eye and said, "If you do this movie, you may never work in this town again. I don't want to be responsible for that." That was the warning. And Caviezel's response? He told Gibson that everyone is called to carry their cross, and that if you don't pick it up willingly, you'll be crushed by the weight of it. Gibson reportedly went quiet. Before all of this, Caviezel was climbing. He had built real momentum with roles in The Thin Red Line, Frequency, and The Count of Monte Cristo. He was the kind of actor that studios were starting to pay serious attention to. He wasn't a nobody begging for a breakout role. He was a man with something to lose, and he chose to lose it anyway. What Gibson didn't mention right away was the bizarre detail that Caviezel himself later brought up publicly. When he took the role, he was 33 years old, and his initials were JC. The same age, the same initials. Caviezel has said that coincidence felt less like chance and more like a calling. Whether you believe that or not, it's hard to deny the moment had weight. Gibson also told him the film would be shot in Aramaic, Hebrew, and Latin, making it one of the most linguistically ambitious productions ever attempted. Caviezel agreed to all of it. He walked into a role that would demand everything from him, knowing full well that the industry might never forgive him for it. But what happened next on that film set went way beyond acting. The production of The Passion of the Christ was filmed in Italy, and from the very start, things started happening that no director could script. The first major incident came during the filming of the Sermon on the Mount. Caviezel was standing on an exposed hillside with roughly 350 people around him when lightning came down and hit him directly. He said he felt it coming about 4 seconds before it struck. What the crew saw was fire shooting from both sides of his head and a bright illumination around his entire body. Gibson was watching on the screens. He just looked confused and asked, "What happened to Caviezel's hair?" That wasn't the only lightning strike on set. The assistant director, John Michelini, was struck twice during the same production. The odds of being struck by lightning twice are estimated at around 1 in 9 million. Somehow, it happened on this set. Then came the scourging scene. Gibson had instructed the actors playing Roman soldiers to whip toward a post behind Caviezel, keeping the hits off camera. One of them missed. The whip connected with Caviezel's back and tore a 14-inch gash into his skin. The pain was so overwhelming that he said it knocked the breath entirely out of him. On top of all that, a 150-pound cross fell and struck him in the head during filming. He bit through his tongue and his cheek. That moment actually made it into the final cut. The blood streaming from his mouth on screen was real, but none of that compares to what happened when he was up on the cross. The crucifixion scenes were filmed outdoors, on a cliff roughly 1,000 feet high. Caviezel hung there, nearly without clothing, with bitter cold winds of around 25 degrees Fahrenheit and 30-knot gusts during the Italian winter. He developed pneumonia, a lung infection, and full-body hypothermia so severe that his mouth shook uncontrollably and he could barely deliver his lines. His left shoulder kept dislocating under the strain of his arms being stretched open. A doctor on set listened to his heart with a stethoscope and told him and Gibson directly that continuing could kill him. Caviezel said he wanted to continue anyway. It was during those crucifixion scenes that he described the most spiritually charged moment of his life. He experienced what Catholic tradition calls an interior locution, which is not a voice heard with the ears, but a communication felt from within. He said Jesus spoke to him and asked, "Am I too close?" At that exact moment, a doctor had a stethoscope pressed to his chest. Caviezel has described that moment as both terrifying and deeply intimate, something that stopped him cold even in the middle of all the physical pain. Then his heart stopped. He described leaving his body and watching the medical team working to revive him from above. He saw the back of himself on the cross. He said what he felt in that moment was a peace more complete than anything he had ever experienced in his life. And then they brought him back, and the pain returned instantly and with full force. He would later undergo 2 heart surgeries, including open heart surgery, directly because of what his body endured during filming. The cardiac issue wasn't corrected until 2014, a full decade after the film was released. That kind of experience doesn't leave a man, and for Caviezel, it followed him straight into his career. The Passion of the Christ opened in 2004 and made $612 million worldwide, becoming the highest-grossing independent film and the top-grossing religious film ever made. For the actor at its center, you'd expect that number to open every door in Hollywood. Instead, they closed. Quietly, systematically, and without any official announcement, Caviezel found himself frozen out. Gibson had warned him this would happen. Caviezel has confirmed publicly that the warning proved accurate. He didn't collapse under it. He leaned harder into his faith, took roles that aligned with his beliefs, and spent years building a career outside the approval of mainstream Hollywood. Then, in 2023, he starred in Sound of Freedom, a faith-adjacent thriller about child trafficking that virtually no major studio wanted to touch. It opened against Disney's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and beat it at the box office during its opening stretch, eventually earning over $250 million globally on a tiny budget. Hollywood ignored it at awards season. Audiences showed up anyway. Caviezel has spoken in interviews about the spiritual insights he says came to him during and after filming, including what he described as warnings about cultural decay and growing hostility toward faith. Critics see these as general religious concerns. His supporters point to the consistency and sincerity of how he's lived since the film. Either way, his entire post-Passion life has been shaped by what he experienced on that set. So when the sequel was announced and he started preparing for it, fans expected him back. What actually happened was something nobody predicted. As recently as April 2025, Caviezel was on the Arroyo Grande podcast talking about preparing for the resurrection of the Christ. He said he was fasting. He prayed the rosary daily. He planned to receive the Eucharist every day during filming. He even said Jesus had told him, "I don't have anybody else for the role." He was all in. Then in October 2025, the news broke. The entire cast had been replaced. Actor Hakko Otonen from Finland was the new Jesus. Monica Bellucci, who played Mary Magdalene, was replaced by Mariella Garriga. The whole ensemble had been rebuilt from scratch. Production had already started at Rome's Cinecittà Studios, the exact same location where Gibson filmed the original. The stated reason was practical. Caviezel is now 57 and the sequel picks up just 3 days after the crucifixion. De-aging him digitally to look 33 again would have been extraordinarily expensive. Gibson chose to recast instead. The internet erupted. Comments flooded social media saying things like, "Recasting Jesus is crazy," and "Those are some big shoes to fill." Others acknowledged the logic but admitted they were far less interested in seeing the film without him. The sequel is now set to release in 2 parts, with Part 1 arriving on Good Friday, March 26, 2027, and Part 2 on Ascension Day, May 6, 2027. Caviezel, the man who gave everything, who literally had his heart stop on that cross, who lived with the physical consequences for a decade, will watch it from the outside. The real question the story leaves behind isn't about Hollywood politics or production budgets. It's whether a sequel to what Caviezel lived through can carry the same weight when the man who suffered through it is no longer in the frame. So, what do you think about all of this? Do you believe what Caviezel experienced on that set was something beyond the physical? Or was it just an ordinary man pushed to his absolute limits? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, give this video a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. We'll see you in the next one.